Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Clinton Chard, Catherine Austin, Mike Jones, and kind of a dark house. I'm sorry, I might look a little different in lighting and that kind of stuff. It's only because there have been some lightning storms, and it's affected me. And so I probably look a little different than usual.
Yes.
If I make any jokes, they're all going to be off-color jokes.
Mhm.
Mike, please rescue me.
Well, and you, yeah, you may notice, some bandwidth issues again tonight. I think this has to do with weather. I have to figure that it's that. We're on the tail end of some pretty radical thunder and lightning going through here. It was raining about 2 inches an hour about an hour ago, and so it's pretty hairy. So if you all of a sudden we fall off the air, or a bolt of lightning strikes Dale, then
Hey, I have a
you'll
good
know it.
relationship with the Lord.
Okay. You'll know what happens. Well, and as Dale mentioned, we have Clinton Chard and Catherine Austin here with us this evening. We're going to start with Catherine and about her affidavit and just her recollections of her role with the Oath Keepers.
Well,
And
just before you
uh,
do that, Catherine, Mike, so that
hmm,
people know who have joined us for the first time. Why are you joining us for the first time? But welcome. Please tell us, Mike,
yeah.
quickly what it is we've been talking about all week, and emphasize this is the last night. Please, Mike, please.
Yes. Um, well, a few nights ago, I believe it was Monday, there was an email barrage that went out that contained links to this website called principledpatriot.com, and within it there are a number of accounts of contact with the Oath Keepers and Joseph Rice in particular, and the parties that the parties who put affidavits on there are Viken Nicodian, Catherine Austin, and Anita White. And so anyway, we have Catherine Austin here, and then also Clinton Chard. Clinton Chard was in charge of logistics there, and Catherine was the treasurer right during the beginning of the Sugar Pine Mine security operation.
And just before this show, Anita
So,
White
Catherine, if you could.
I was going to say, just before the show, Anita White remembered that she's got something else she has to do.
Okay. So, having said that, if you could, Catherine, just tell us about your experience there and leading up to your resignation.
All right. Hi, Dale and Mike. So I became recognized as the treasurer back near the later half of February. Joseph had asked for volunteers at a meeting, and I volunteered. I was then recognized by leadership and voted in. I then stayed in touch with Joseph about the job and wanted to be informed of what my duties were, and I was told that I would be hooked up with an existing bank account, but that never happened. Joseph was extremely busy. We had some large meetings with the sheriff and the district attorney. I was presented as the treasurer in public, but I had no duties to speak of. At the time the mining operation commenced in the middle of April, I came on board to assist with that. I was on site all day the first 10 days of the operation approximately, and I did not have much duties. I was told there was a PayPal account that was being activated and I would be given access to those funds, but there was delays, and I was told that was due to PayPal all the way up to the point at which I resigned. And I had limited duties to collect receipts and some cash donations on site that were of a far less amount than the PayPal account, a few $100s or so. and I felt pretty ineffective, although I was assisting with logistics with volunteer coordination. And I think that I realized that I could have potential liabilities, and I was concerned about what was going on because I realized the finances of this operation could get to be quite large.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, what do you feel about the characterization that your task as treasurer was just sort of a sub-treasurer role, or an on-site treasurer role, and not the treasurer in full for the Josephine County Oath Keepers chapter?
I would have to say that seems about the way that it went, although I did not have any clarity that I had some minor role and that there was a treasurer hierarchy of people above me that I was working with in any way. Mm-hmm. I felt there was no such structure that I was informed of at all. So I was left quite wondering what my duties were, and I began to feel like a potential shell with liability, and that was concerning to me. And the communications, there was never any briefings or staff meetings to speak of. And so, yeah, I, as far as I knew, Bruce and Joseph were the ones that I always tried to speak with, and they maintained complete authority. I also want to address the point of Mary's statements last night, and that she is threatening legal action against the people who made affidavits and wanting to set the record straight. And that I have a hard time with that because the sole reason why I made an affidavit following up to my resignation letter back in April was to clarify my role so that I would not be held liable for anything. Mm-hmm. And I have clearly not made any mischaracterizations or assassinations against anyone's character.
Well, we read over your affidavit, Catherine, and didn't see anything in there that I could see or Mike could see that looked like it was character assassination. But let me ask you another question. Had you had previous experience as a treasurer before this time?
Not as a treasurer per se. My past business experiences with small business, I had handled some small bookkeeping for small business. I had not been ever a treasurer per se, but I didn't ever hear that anything was required or what skill set was required, and I had tried to inquire to that effect and was never informed. So that was another thing that was concerning me. At the time when a person was requested, the financial activity of the chapter was probably quite less significant than it was once the mining operation commenced.
Right. Now, when you were operating there as the treasurer, and as you say, you didn't have any idea that you weren't in full authority in that position. Did they ever inform you that you were, at any point during your time there, did they ever inform you that you didn't have the full authority of the treasurer and that someone else above you would have to be in charge of the bank accounts in terms of the in terms of the accounting?
Absolutely not whatsoever. I felt that it was supposed to be forthcoming. That's why I was concerned. I was told that I would have access to the bank account and the funds from the PayPal account. Nothing was ever explained in detail about any structure or that I had a far limited role. That was never clarified to me.
So how did you get the idea that you might at some point be liable for things which may happen in terms of the finances?
Because I was aware that people across the nation had been requesting information on how to donate to the operation. Clinton received a lot of input from people as logistics coordinator. He was receiving a lot of emails and phone calls. and I knew that Joseph and Bruce were going to the bank and speaking to people and about the PayPal account. And so I knew they had the ways and means of authority to deal with these things. And I felt concerned that if I wasn't given proof, documentation, so forth, to clarify what was going on, that I felt I was putting myself into a gray zone that I was uncomfortable with.
Now, did you speak with Joseph or Bruce about any of those concerns before you turned in your resignation?
I insisted that I wanted to know what was going on and that I was uncomfortable. I had an incident where a gentleman who was a member of our chapter was told to come to me for reimbursement. This happened right before I resigned, for a significant amount of fuel and I'm not sure what else, but I had no ability to reimburse them, and he was very upset because he drove all the way out to the staging area, as per Bruce is what he told me, to secure that reimbursement. And I felt really bad, and I tried to clear things up, but he drove away very upset. And after that, I felt continually like insecure about what I was doing, so to speak.
Well, speaking of
Go
insecure,
ahead, Dale.
Clinton Chard was head of operations, as I understand, Clinton. And Catherine, you've mentioned Clinton. Clinton, we've got till 25 minutes after. Why don't you fill us in about what your role was, which was not treasurer? You were involved in something else, and tell us a bit about your anything that you have to say about this subject, because we're giving everybody a chance to say their part.
Well, I really appreciate that, Dave. Hi, Mike. Hi, Dale. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so I have a background in information system security. I have a bachelor's in information system security, and I have a master's in information systems management. So I am well versed. I've been involved in the industry since 2001. So I'm well versed in performing security audits. And as logistics coordinator, I volunteered my time about a year ago. I took that position, and I was under the idea that as logistics coordinator, my job was to manage the movement of manpower, materials, and funds back and forth to their appropriate places. I would, as far as funds would go, I would work with Catherine Austin, or the treasurer, whoever that was, and it was Catherine Austin at the time for 2 months prior to the sugar pine operation. And I also saw and can verify what she said is true. I requested multiple times to buy, I was requested by the mine to purchase fresh food, fresh vegetables, fruits, things other than the huge amounts of bread that we received, the huge amounts of expired tuna that we received, and other things. But I was unable to because I just didn't have enough cash on hand. I requested through Catherine Austin on multiple occasions that I need access to the PayPal account, and where I knew we were receiving lots of funds because there was so much interest in the emails I was inundated with. I would estimate that I had 75 to 150 emails every day with new interest. Now that shows significant amounts of that's just the people wanting to show up. That's not counting all the people that are interested in donating.
Right.
And I'm sure that dwarfed the interest in just showing up. So as Mary Emmerich, I would agree with the assessment Mary Emmerich said last night that we had approximately 800 volunteers come through it. And I'm sure the donations dwarf that significantly.
Wow.
I also was in a position to I'm a licensed ham operator, and I was in logistics headquarters at the time when Vic brought forth some of these security violations to Bruce and Joseph. And I can corroborate Vic's story in that security audit he provided was fantastic. I would present such a documents to my clients when I do a security audit, and if I had something like that, I know I would have a job for sure.
Right.
It was very comprehensive and very clear.
So now, when that happened, what was the reaction of Bruce and Joseph to that audit?
They just rejected it out of hand.
Hmm.
In fact, it was so shocking to me that they wouldn't hear it because we were under various attacks by unknown hackers during the operation.
Well,
we had members who
claim
would come to me as logistics coordinator. They would come to me because Joseph and Bruce really were on the mountain or traveling around or meeting with media. They really didn't have a heavy hand in the day-to-day operations. That fell to me. No one else would stand up and do it, so I took it upon myself because I did not have direction from Joseph or Bruce. They were hands-off. And I assumed that meant I was doing a good job because it wasn't until much later that they changed what my role was in such a significant way that I was mitigated incredibly.
Yeah.
And I wonder why. Was it because I was asking? No, this is supposition. But was it because I was asking too many questions about where the money is and what's going on? I wonder. So
now let me ask you before you move on. The security audit.
Yes.
When I spoke to Joseph a few days ago, he told me that that security audit was bogus and that the site they were never hacked. And there was never a security issue, and that that security audit showed a hole that was put in there specifically so that Vic could go in and make changes to the website because he was having trouble getting in by some other means. That's what Joseph says that. That
argument doesn't hold water because you can create a very secure Apache Linux server without creating huge holes and out-of-dateness. This report had multiple instances of being completely out of date. And when you're running a secure operation such as this, it is critical that you keep your Apache server and other software running on that server up to date with the most up-to-date patches to prevent security holes. That's having a secure login using Secure Shell or SSH, as Vic said last night. That is critical to having a secure login. So it's either, I would hazard to say, laziness or inattention or just didn't know what he was doing or talking about. I hate to say it, but as a professional who has training and extensive experience with this, it's par of the course to create a secure server and have a secure remote login.
Okay.
This question's for Kat. I have a question for Catherine Austin. Now, 2 nights ago, we had Viken Nikodian on to answer some tough questions. And when Viken was done, we had George Backus, who's one of the co-owners of the mine, on. He also called me yesterday, and he said he just wanted to make one thing doubly clear, that he had personally checked, because he wasn't quite sure what was happening, on the PayPal, on the donations that were coming in. He had some friends make donations, and then he was able to track their donations, and to his satisfaction, is what he told me, he found that the money was going to the right place, and that that has now died down quite a bit. But he said he wanted to be sure that everybody knew that the idea that the money wasn't going to the right place was BS. So, Catherine, what was your experience that might be different than his account of that?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was on.
Yeah.
Back when I was on site and the PayPal accounts were activated, we had people complain that they were concerned on their receipts from their donations through PayPal that a mysterious name was appearing, woman's name on their receipts, that they were concerned that possibly the accounts were being hacked. That did not get cleared up right away, and I didn't, before I resigned, did not hear the end of it. To follow up on that, I was in Grants Pass close to 2 weeks ago, and I was at a shop in town, and George Backus was there, and I was there with 4 other people who witnessed him speaking about that he was concerned that he wasn't getting his funds. He had made multiple attempts to contact Joseph and Bruce. Joseph was busy in the hospital, and Bruce was not responding to his calls, and he felt concerned that he was not getting his donations, that they were being circumvented in some way. And then I guess he's since tested, is what he called it, with these possible donations, and they came through his friends or associates. But I feel it's really too bad that he spoke differently to many of us, and then was on the air the other night saying otherwise. And I feel that of concern about the 180-degree statements without being more accountable for what he had said previously.
Well, now,
Dale and Mike?
yes.
Dale and Mike, I was present at that conversation. I can corroborate everything Catherine has just said. He did a 180-degree turn on his statements from what he told us 2 weeks ago and what he said last night.
Now, I'm sorry, but it's going to seem like you're at a county commissioners meeting now. You two have 3 minutes to sum up.
Okay. Well, Catherine, do you want to speak or do I?
I'll let you have it.
Number one, the Oath Keepers bylaws hold us all accountable as individuals. This is on the Oath Keeper National website, that each individual is responsible for their own actions, and there is a zero tolerance policy for anything that would bring disreputation upon the Oath Keepers. I fully support this bylaw, and I fully support the Oath Keepers and their mission. I in no way want to be seen as being an attacker of the Oath Keepers. But just like we may love our country, but we may not like the leadership of the country, I love the Oath Keepers, but I may not like the way the leadership of the Oath Keeper Joco County is being run. That is what I'm questioning. Where is the money, and what are they doing with it? Why will they not answer questions regarding openness to either the chapter or the public? There are a lot of volunteers here that gave their blood, sweat, treasure, and tears to support this operation, and I just want to see them respected with some openness about where the money is going. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, Mike, what Mike's going to do now is he's going to say goodbye to our two guests. Goodbye to our two guests, and he's going to thank you. He's going to get Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger on the phone. Now, Vivian's going to add in her perspective on all this. What we have tried to do from the beginning, and it's a mystery to me why some people keep saying, well, you're not being fair. Brother, we're giving everybody a long chance to talk. This is a lot longer than you're going to have if you were on TV, because they're going to use a 30-second sound bite and talk over half of that. That may have seemed like not very long with them, but that was 25 minutes. Well, yeah, about 22 minutes. So now we're going to let Vivian speak. As soon as Mike gets her on the phone, he'll hold up his hand and let me know. And so what we've been trying to do is, we got a call from a fellow who said, can you come and meet with me? I want to talk with you kind of off the record, not on your show. We went right over to go see him. So we've been trying to be sure that everybody has their say. And the thing that's been a little concerning to me is that there are people, I don't understand, because maybe I grew up in a different country. There are people who say the bare fact that you're letting the other side say something means that it's all wrong. No. No. that's exactly what we should be doing, is letting both sides say things. We'd like them to talk a little longer. We'd like to give, but we gave Viken an hour plus to talk. We gave the PIO, and we asked her if she wanted to do it before, and they couldn't do it right away. Okay. And we had the mine owner on, and we've now had some other people on. So we've dedicated 4 full nights to this story. And we're having one more person on to come on who's a supporter of Joseph Rice in particular and Oath Keepers in general, JOCO or Oath Keepers in general. And then she's going to, if it seems like I'm talking a long time because Mike's trying to get hold of her at the moment, and we're going to let everybody have their say. If you don't like it, this is not the right country for you, because we're going to let everybody have their say. Have I said that enough times? I think that I have. Mike, are we almost ready, bud? I'm running out of things to say. Nope. Okay.
Go right ahead.
Please talk.
We have Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger with us right now.
And we don't have Clinton Chard and Catherine Austin anymore.
No, I'll deal with that. You just take it away with Vivian.
Okay, Vivian. So
yes, hi.
You don't have every detail, but you've got something that we need a lot of, and that's spirit, and you've got emotion, and you've got gumption, and we asked Joseph to come on. He just couldn't quite do that. Okay, and so you're going to be carrying the ball for Joseph Rice and Josephine County. Oh, Joseph and Josephine County Oath Keepers. Go for it.
I'm carrying the ball for them. They didn't tell me I could.
No, you're not officially representing them. We asked you to come on and provide some perspective from your perspective.
Perspective from my perspective. Okay. Well, where would you like me to start?
Start at the beginning. No, don't start at the beginning. And the beginning, the heaven and the earth. No, not that far back, Vivian. Tell us what the heck is going on here.
As far as I know about the Sugar Pine Mine, how's that?
No, I'm going to suggest something a little bit so that you can use all the time. You heard about this website come up. You know why we went out to ask people questions about the website. Tell us what the heck is going on with this website and with these people who are on both sides of this argument. Please tell us from your perspective.
Okay, well, I have, since reading this really bizarre website, I have talked to Joseph, I've talked to Anita White, and I have texted with Mike and the Codian today. And now my website just disappeared. Wouldn't you know? Let me see if I can get it back up here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I went to the website, and the first thing I see is this little Chinese guy on a horse holding a sword up, and says Joseph Rice, the warlord, and the Sugar Pine Mine. And this, whoever wrote this, and Vic Viken, says he didn't write it, but whoever wrote it, it appears to me that, they're leading you to a conclusion that they want you to reach, and they're giving you sound bites and information from Wikipedia, that it actually transferred over from Wikipedia the definition of a warlord and the year. And I worked at the University of California for 28 years, and we didn't use Wikipedia, okay? We use real dictionaries. I mean, that's like an online dictionary, and it's fun, and it has a lot of information for it, but I'm pretty sure George Soros owns it. But anyway, you look at this warlord thing, the very first soundbite he's got on there is Joseph Rice saying, if it doesn't come out of my mouth, it's bold, blank, blank. Mm-hmm. And so when you listen to that, you think, wow, well, that's pretty egotistical. But I was there when that was going on. I mean, I remember exactly the reason Joseph said that. And it was because it was in the Courier that the Sugar Pine Mine owners didn't really want the Oath Keepers there, which was a bunch of bull, because they actually invited them there and wanted them there, and it said they wanted them there. So Joseph was very angry that was in the paper, and he wanted to know who said it, and they told him it came from someone within his organization. And that really made him angry.
Well,
And so,
and that was going on. I mean, there was a lot of people spreading those kind of rumors, and there was suspicion that there was, people from the other side of this argument wanting to get that out there to try and create confusion.
right. So that's why Joseph said, if it doesn't come from my mouth, it's false.
Mm-hmm.
Mine. And that's because he was angry, and he wanted people to get the right story. And so that's how he started that. But the way that whoever made this website frames it is it frames him as the warlord, And so then you follow the money and you go through all these other people's, Catherine Austin's affidavit. And an affidavit is actually supposed to be a statement of fact if you look up the definition of it in a real dictionary. Even Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is a statement of fact. None of these actual affidavits are statements of fact. They're statements of fact combined with emotion, combined with confusion.
Well, and I think to clarify, their statement of facts as you know them, and
yes.
Which is subjective.
Yes, and they even put subjectivity in their affidavit, which isn't supposed to be in an affidavit. Legally, I mean.
Well,
so
the truth is different things to different people, and that's the problem with you ask two people what they saw walking down the street, and they'll both tell you something different. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a police investigation.
Right.
You can ask the same person, what did the perpetrator look like, and you get three different descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So, but following the statements, Joseph sought the sources of money for the chapter. Well, that was his job. That operation cost $1,200 to $1,500 a day to run out there, and that was his job to get the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a misnomer that was a bad thing.
Well, wait a minute, though. But hang on a minute. Wasn't it also? I mean, shouldn't the quote treasurer have considered that their job to be controlling the finances that finance that whole operation?
Yes, and that's a curious thing because I've been a treasurer. I was a treasurer for 18 years for a homeowner association. I was the only person, and I had signature authority on the accounts and everything. And I had somebody else who could sign when I wasn't there. But I know what happens with that, and I'm on a board right now that I'm also a treasurer on. So I know how that works. And sometimes you have treasurers who have signature authority, and you have bookkeepers who log in things and do reports.
Yeah, but those people usually don't carry the moniker treasurer.
No, they don't. And I think that was a mistake. I think that Joseph should have said, we need a bookkeeper. Because the people that showed up for this, some of them had no bookkeeping experience or treasurer experience whatsoever, but they were the only person who volunteered, so we took them.
Right.
And that was a very fast-moving operation. I went out there one day, and it was like watching a movie and fast forward.
Yeah, that's true. All right, hang on a second. Go ahead, Dale.
Vivian, we were at a meeting where Joseph Rice had introduced to everybody that was in the room, introduced Catherine Austin as a treasurer. And then, and I appreciate the fact that you say, well, maybe that wasn't done quite right. This is one of the reasons we want Vivian on this show, because I personally think that she is a pretty straightforward person when it comes to this kind of stuff. Okay, look, here's a plus, here's a minus, that kind of thing. Then when she indicated that there was some concern on her part about her liability and not really being able to perform the treasurer duties, when the second treasurer came in, my understanding is that person also left for similar reasons, like, hey, wait a minute, am I the treasurer or not the treasurer? Now, I'm not saying that you have every piece of information, but perhaps it would have been a good idea to call the second person, to not call the second person a treasurer based on the first treasurer's misgivings about that?
Probably you're right. And probably Joseph didn't have a clear understanding of the difference between the two, in my personal opinion. And he just needed somebody in there to help him, even if he had to call him a treasurer, And he didn't probably even know he should have called him a bookkeeper. I mean, that's what he should have done.
Now, let me posit a scenario to you, Vivian. Here's the scenario. You've got some fellows that have a background in security. Okay, normally there are going to be certain kinds of people that fall into a certain category in this life of ours. And they're also used to security and to maybe even a little secret details because that's who they are. Now they get involved with a security operation with the miners, where there's some people that they're kind of up against that haven't been. The rumor about them is that they've been burning cabins without notice, and the miners say they've got plenty of evidence, and that's not just a rumor. Okay, and they were pretty concerned about secrecy and about security. Then
Right.
you overlay over that an operation where you're asking for good-hearted people to make cash donations to a good-hearted project, and you still want to maintain some kind of security and secrecy. You know, those don't mix together very well. The commissioners have found that out. If you're going to be operating with money, you better not be, covering it up with some kind of secrecy. Would you agree with that?
No. I'll tell you
Okay.
why. The commissioners are elected people, and they have to live by laws, state laws. And everybody should live by those laws. I mean, just because they're good laws. But if you took some people out of the forest, or take them out in the middle of Afghanistan, and you put them in charge of an operation, they can run that operation, but it doesn't mean they know how to run money. What they should be doing as far as accounting, or how they should be running an accounting treasurer operation. Now, they should have called me, and I could have gone over there and straightened the whole thing out for them, but they didn't call me, and, I was watching from afar and actually provided toilets for them for a while. But anyway, I think that you have to look at who was doing the operation. There were people who were used to running military operations, people who'd been shot at and wounded in wars previously, and they were optimistically trying to keep miners safe, and that was really their objective. Their objectives weren't to run a squeaky clean accounting firm, or a squeaky clean, they got computer operation there. Their main objective was to protect miners, protect property, keep all these millions of volunteers, doing something and setting up that campground that they had out there, and keeping people up at the, transferring people in and out of the Camp Joy Road place, the top of the mountain, safely and securely. And so those were their primary objectives. And so, when you take people like that, it was like when I worked at the university, we had very, very highly intellectual people with ingenious IQs, running big projects for, the National Institute of Health or National Science Foundation. But if you ask them, and they would try to overspend their accounts, and I would tell them, nope, you can only spend the money once. You've run out. And they would just go off their rocker, like, what do you mean? I need to have this. I said, well, you didn't put it in your grant to start with. You don't have the money in there, so you can't spend it, Right. And so then they would have to go out and raise funds to complete whatever they were doing. These were highly intelligent people. Now, we're talking, PhDs. So if you take a guy who's been in a war, who's probably got PTSD on top of everything else, and you ask him to run a squeaky clean accounting operation, my bet is that you got about a 1 in 10 chance of that happening.
Yes, and listen, it should be understood that whereas the commissioners are held to one standard because they're public officials, and
Right.
there is mandated transparency there. The same doesn't exist for private organizations, and I guess at no they have no obligation to show such transparency to the public.
Well, except for their name, which is Oath Keepers, and their commitment to being good, honest people that are doing good, honest work. I totally agree with
And
you.
I think that's what they thought they were doing. I don't think a single one of them thought they were doing anything underhanded up there. They would get money, cash money in envelopes. They would log it in, and then they would need money to feed, like, a couple hundred people up there. They'd hand cash money to people and say, "Go to the store, buy food. We need it now." Bring the receipts back, and that's what they did.
So I would imagine after this situation that they will probably the next operation will be handled a little bit differently.
Yeah, probably they'll call me. Darn.
Oh, now we know who cooked this whole thing up from the beginning, Mike. It was
Yes,
Vivian
right.
that was looking for no, she won't be paid. Well, never mind.
No.
My theory's full.
No.
Vivian.
And, if any of them were elected to be a commissioner, they have people there to safeguard them from doing stuff like this.
No. I'm not going to buy that. That's not been working out well at all. Running the videotape back. No. But Vivian, aside from that mistake, can you please tell us? So if somebody comes to you on the street, no, that doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. If somebody's at a meeting or they're sitting down for lunch with you, and they say, "So Vivian, what the heck was all this thing that I heard about? What is the summary statement that you'd put about it? What was this all about? This brouhaha," as Mike puts it. I don't know what the definition of that is. And we can only look up in Merriam-Webster for that. Okay, I heard you already a couple of times. What was this about?
This whole thing with this website, I think, was about Viken, who probably thought that he was a victim, when actually they took his website thing to national, and apparently they didn't really want to use it. They had something else. Now, he also says that he had it copyrighted, patented. So my question to him is, if you have it copyrighted and patented, why didn't you take it to court and sue them if they indeed did this? Because you can prove that. And he's not doing that. So either he didn't have it patented or they didn't use it. So my guess is they didn't use it, or because he's putting so much angst into this, he had it copyrighted, for heaven's sakes. Of course he'd sue them. Any normal person would. And so he's not doing that. So he was angry, and he's exercising that anger now. And he doesn't sound like he's angry, because he's a pretty controlled guy. He's pretty smart. So he's putting this website together to make Joseph and Bruce McFarland look bad and kind of take out his anger on him. This is what I think. And thinking that he's doing the right thing because they offended him and they took something that was his in his mind. And so he is going to expose them to the world for, being the evil warlords, which is really kind of funny. And the way that Viken writes his, I read his affidavit. I think I pointed out a couple points of that to you guys yesterday on the phone. It's number 19, I believe, and his statement was something about them setting up a star chamber type court or something to that effect. And I thought, good heavens, there's nothing like that I've ever seen in an affidavit. And I also took paralegal courses when I was in college, and good heavens, this is a lot of conjecture and a lot of big, very emotional words, in an affidavit, which it doesn't belong there. It's just supposed to be a simple statement of fact, and that's not how these affidavits were done. And so Viken today tried to get me on text, and I was actually very busy. I had to go to the doctor. I had, my yard guy was here, my housekeeper was here. I have to go to the doctor because I can't move like other people can move, can't walk very well, have really bad back problems. So I was very distracted today, so I couldn't get back to him. But he wrote me, if you taped it to the wall, it's probably about 2 foot long of these text messages, which I read, but they all, my question to him was, if you have a patent, why haven't you sued? That would be the normal course of action. He completely ignored that and went all the way around it and said a whole bunch of other stuff that didn't make any sense to me. It wasn't an answer. And then he comes to some conclusion that oh, I get it now. You thought this website was something, and it's not. It's da-da-da. And I'm thinking, geez, I can't even get into this. I don't have time, to do this today. So I haven't answered him, and I would like to answer him because I don't want him to be my enemy for sure. I don't want a website up there about Vivian. And so I would like to, work this out with him. But,
that would be a big website, too, because I have some contributions to that website, Vivian.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah, but, then it they consider the source about the credibility, right. Now,
I
Vivian,
can't understand you. What was it again?
I was just going to.
You're dropping out.
I was going to ask you. Sorry, I'm dropping out.
Go ahead.
I've been doing this now for a while. Vivian, I want to be sure that each person feels they've had their say. Do you have anything else to say before we talk about you behind your back?
I would like to say that I like Joseph Rice. I have been in other meetings that are unrelated to Oath Keepers with him, and he gives 110% to everything he does. He's probably to me, he's a really honest, hardworking guy that does keep his oath to things. If he says he's going to do something, he does it, and without fail. And there's another guy in town that should be an Oath Keeper that does the same thing. But he's too busy with his businesses to also do Oath Keeper stuff. But that's Ward, and these guys are good friends, and they're both, I think, as honest as the day is long. And I think Joseph Joseph was in pain, and he had to go have an operation on a foot that he almost got blown off, and apparently a country that he's never been in because he's never been out of the country, according to Lycan, or according to this website. And somebody searched his background and said, oh gosh, he's never even been out of the country. Well, yeah, he was. He was in Afghanistan and he had his foot blown up, and he had to have an operation on it, and he was in Portland, I think. But even before he went there, he was in a lot of pain, trying to deal with hundreds of people a day. And, I think he did the best that he could do as one man. You probably needed 5 or 6 people up there doing this. And he did it as one guy, him and Bruce, And so, Bruce, I don't know Bruce that well. He was at a few of these other meetings that I was at, and he doesn't say much. He's kind of a quiet guy. And I can't say whether he said those things to Lycan or not, But if he did, it was the wrong thing to say to him. Maybe he was doing it just to spike him, and poke him a little. But he seemed like not that kind of guy to me. Like he was just doing the best he could. And when Joseph was in the hospital, you saw McFarland take up the banner, and he came to a meeting one night, and he had 3 days of growth on his face. I'd never seen him unshaved before. He's a really neat Nick, and he had a gun strapped to his hip, and he was in camis, and and I thought, oh my gosh, this looks like Joseph, These are just good guys trying to do a good thing, and I think Lycan and other people that were up there misunderstood that they weren't the treasurer really, and that was probably Joseph's fault. He probably should have told him, actually, you're a bookkeeper, but Joseph probably didn't know that's what it really was. In actuality, they were not treasurers because they didn't have access to accounts. They were bookkeepers, and that's what he should have announced it as. That's a failing of Joseph, but I don't fault him for that because he was so darn busy, dancing around doing everything else. He probably couldn't even think of the word bookkeeper.
So here's that part. Mike suspects something. Tell your suspicion there, Mike, and then.
No, I suspect it was pretty hectic, and there was a lot going on, and so confusion ensued.
So as I promised you, Vivian, now we're going to talk about you behind your back. Mike, when we told a couple of people,
darn well better be nice.
Oh, well, you'll be able to hear it. You know, when we
Yes.
mentioned to a couple of people, because we're trying to let everybody know what we're doing, completely open, as honest as Mike can be, and let people know what the heck it is that's happening here, and let everybody have their say. And a couple of people said, well, you know, Vivian's kind of, you know, maybe she's a Kool-Aid drinker, you know what I mean by that, or perhaps she's only going to say one side of it. I'm impressed by the fact that she could, this is my personal observation, that she could say, well, you know, maybe this wasn't done exactly the right way, and perhaps they should have done that. And here's a couple of reasons why they did it, but she didn't give us 1,100 reasons for it. She just said, well,
Right.
this maybe wasn't, you know, I can personally appreciate the
Logic-based
fact.
reasoning.
Well, that would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. And we haven't seen, sometimes we don't see that. Now, honestly, I think Mike will agree that we've heard some arguments from Viken and we've heard some arguments from Mary where we asked them, each of them, about 4 times about some things, and it was like, did you catch that we weren't exactly getting an answer on some of these? And so, but that's why we want to be sure everybody's got their chance. We're not going to do some grand summary of all this. Well, here's who's right and who's wrong. How the heck do we know? We're giving it to you so that you can see the pluses and the minuses in a longer format than 30 seconds on the TV station. They're not going to report this until after the courier does some final, here's who's right and who's wrong. They're not going to know either. Okay. And then the TV station, well, here's who's completely right and wrong. None of that's going to be right. I haven't seen anything, and Mike, why don't you sum this whole up? I haven't seen anyone that looks like they're completely or right or completely wrong on this subject. Mike?
Yeah. No. Listen, there's clearly a you can see where there are hurt feelings here. There are people looking to cover their rear end because they didn't want liability, and there's people trying to cover their rear end because they see they didn't do something entirely correctly. And there's, I can see all sides of this. I think that this, if you had to sum this up, this is a stalemate.
I think they should all go on Dr. Phil's show. What do you think?
Maybe so, but the thing is that the people who feel they're wrong, there's never going to be any redress of that. Everybody's left. It's there's no going back into this organization, and the organization has made up their mind as to how they feel about certain things. And outside of Viken's thought that he perhaps should be. That he wants to know what's going on with his intellectual property. That's the only issue here, and he can take care of that in a civilian court situation if he feels the necessity to do that. The rest of this is, it's unfortunate that all of these things came together, and I think we should all move on.